Hello, guys, and welcome back to the Live Strong podcast. We're back with another episode, and this is the final episode before I get married. And I feel like I've been raving on for a very long time to this point. I've been engaged for almost 2 years, and the time has come. And even when I'm recording this, which is like I'm recording this about 10 days out from the wedding, um, it still honestly feels surreal. Like it's the most bizarre thing ever. I think it's surreal. That's like the main way I can describe it. Like, yes, I'm excited. Yes, I have some nerves. Yes, there's like, anxiety building up and all these other emotions, but like the main thing is surreal. And I feel like I just can't believe it's happening like next week. It's like it's weird. That's the best way to describe it is like, I just can't believe it's happening. So, surely one day soon I'm going to wake up and be like, oh my God, it's happening next week. But right now I'm just like, I can't believe it's happening. That's like my pure emotion. But I think that's the type of person I am because even when I got engaged the whole time, I was like, I can't believe that happened. It's a weird thing because you've got to like live in the moment, like live in the moment, be present, even like these next few days leading up to the wedding or into the week of the wedding, every day is sort of exciting. Like currently right now I'm still at work, but I've only got like 3 days left of work. And I don't know, even I don't even feel super emotional about that. Like I've never had 3 weeks off work before. So this is like the longest period I'm having off work. And again, I'm like, oh yeah, that's happening. But I think I just keep forgetting that it's all happening. Like not forgetting because like I'm thinking about it every minute of the day. It's just bizarre. It honestly is bizarre, but it is happening, guys. In about 10 days' time, I think this is going to come out on Friday, so that will literally be in like a week's time. It will be happening. So insane. This is the last podcast you're going to get for 3 weeks. So I thought, perfect opportunity today to talk about my personal health and fitness journey over this past year as I have prepared for this wedding. Because I think a lot of people, when they get married or they get engaged and they're planning their wedding, they're always thinking about, losing all this weight and transforming and doing all these different things to feel like their best self, look like their best self. But I think a lot of people set unrealistic expectations for themselves and they're like, oh, I really need to drop 3 dress sizes before I get my dress, or something like that, where it's, I always preach that you should be confident and happy and feel beautiful in the body that you're in, because really your size isn't going to make you happy. And I've said that before, even when I did my bodybuilding show, which I talked about in the last episode, that when I was super lean, I lost about 12 kilos like leading into that show, which, was what I was trying to do for the sport that I was participating in. But, I didn't feel my most confident, beautiful, sexy self when I was the smallest version of myself. And a lot of people think that that is when they're going to feel their best, but generally that's not when you feel your best. So I think when a lot of people get married or get engaged, in the preparation to get married, I need to lose all this weight. And I see it all the time with my girls at the gym. They'll get married. Bloody hell, I keep saying get married. They're not married yet. They get engaged. And then they are like, Liv, okay, I've got to get on the wedge tread and I've got to lose all this weight. Now, I also was one of those people. But I definitely have a lot of knowledge and a lot of, trial and error past and education. And, I've worked with lots of clients who have lost lots of body fat and, or who have not lost lots of body fat. I've obviously learned a lot, done a lot of courses, education. So I would call myself in a different playing field to my clients when they get to this stage, because I feel like I could set myself up with realistic expectations, realistic goals, and a realistic plan where I can always help my clients get to that point. I'm not saying that you can't lose weight for your wedding, but I do think that to start with, people set themselves unrealistic expectations where I myself wanted to be slightly leaner for my wedding. I wanted to be quite lean. I wanted to feel, my best self, in terms of feeling like when I looked back at my photos, I was like, fuck, I look fit. Like, I worked really hard to look like that. And, I wanted to feel like that on my wedding. That was my goal. That was my dream, my passion. To me, that wasn't actually me losing kilos and kilos of weight. But it did mean losing a bit of body fat. It did have to go, making sure I was consistent, and then also fueling my body correctly leading into the wedding time. So I did set myself this goal to lose body fat. And I set the goal, when we sort of booked the wedding, which we actually booked the wedding in October of 2023 for a March 2025 wedding. Seems like it was a really long time ago, but honestly, things were already booking out when I booked our wedding all the way back then. And I knew that over this period of the wedding and leading up to the wedding, I was going to be busy. I knew that the wedding fell in March. So I knew that prior to the wedding, I would have my hens. I knew that I would have Christmas in December. Me and Nath also went to Bali in July. I can't remember. Might have even been like September last year. So I knew I had these increments of festivities within my deficit phase, which were going to affect the calorie deficit I was putting myself in. Because even when we put ourselves into a calorie deficit, unfortunately, it is quite easy to get out of that deficit. So, me going away for my hens, which was a 5-day extravaganza, I wasn't counting my calories. I was drinking, I was eating, I was enjoying myself. I was eating intuitively. I was just eating what I felt like, listening to my hunger cues, eating what feels good for me, right? I wasn't thinking, oh my God, I've got to be skinny for my wedding when I was at my hens. I was thinking, shit, yeah, let's have the best time. If I feel like eating a whole block of chocolate, I will. Like, that was sort of my vibe. And I knew I wanted to do that. Like, I set myself up knowing that these events were going to happen, and I knew that I wanted to feel like I could have freedom without feeling like I was behind on my physical goal for my wedding. So because of that, I decided to start my deficit and start what I was calling my wedge shred in, I think it was like July last year. Now, that's like July, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. It's about 9 months till my wedding where I set myself this goal. Now, I don't say that being in a deficit for 9 months is practical. No. You can't be in a deficit for 9 months, guys. But I just told you that during that time, I definitely had my hens, which was like almost 2 weeks by the time we went to the hens and we come back and I sort of got back into routine. So like a good 1 to 2 weeks. We had a Christmas where I had a tracking break for about 3 weeks over the Christmas period. We went to Bali, we went to Brisbane. Plus we had other bits and pieces happening throughout those periods where I had days or weeks or weekends where I didn't track. Okay. So we're talking about 9 months, but we're not talking about being super duper rigid, strict for the whole 9 months. Now, for some people, that's not a realistic time frame. 9 months being focused on your physique and your nutrition and your training is not realistic. But for me, it was realistic because normal day to day, I do focus on my training. I have a training plan every single week that I stick to, probably have stuck to for like 8 years. Like I very, very rarely miss training. Nutrition, every single week I have, I fuel my body correctly. Even when I'm not tracking my macros, I always plan out my groceries. I'm always focusing on my protein. I'm always having wholesome meals. Like that's the way I eat. That's my livelihood. So I already do those sorts of things. What else did I have to do? That was sort of it, like as the bare minimum to start with. And all I had to do to start with was to turn the dial up, slightly put more focus in. So for those first probably 2 months or so, all I was doing was starting to track my food again. That was my goal. My goal was to just start to track my food again, just to get back into the habit. Now, I was actually tracking at maintenance, so I still was eating lots and lots of food. I wasn't tracking on the weekends. I was having tracking breaks on the weekends. And even though I was saying that my, red shred was starting in July, I was starting the focus, right? I was doing the laying down the preparation layers for me to really, bring it home strong. So that's how my wedge shred started back in Whoop Whoop for a few months. Then we started to hit into a calorie deficit. I think when we sort of got back from Bali was when I started to actually push into a deficit. So I had slow calorie decreases. Like I think every 4 weeks I was slightly dropping my calories, but for those first few months I still was around the maintenance level. Like I started those first few weeks like just tracking what I was eating, and then we sort of had a calorie goal, and then we started to drop from that. And then like I said, when we got back from about Bali, I started to drop the calories a little bit. So I was starting to get into a deficit phase. Now, when I'm in a deficit phase, it doesn't mean that I'm eating 1,500 calories. I've this whole time haven't ate 1,500 calories. I've been a lot higher than that, even at the lowest of my macros over this wedge shred phase. Now, that's not realistic for everyone. Some people, maybe needed to go lower than I did with their calories or whatever, and that's completely fine, but talking on my personal preference. So we got back from Bali. I started to go into more of a calorie deficit. From there, started to get a little bit stricter with my food on the weekends, but I didn't actually track my food on the weekends until like closer to the end of the year. Again, I'm giving you like very rough timeline here, but I'd say in like October-ish was when I felt like I needed to start to turn the dial up. So every week I was doing body measurements and progress photos every week. So that was sort of giving me a rough idea on how I was traveling. Like I said, I didn't think I would lose much actual scale weight because I didn't want to lose kilos and kilos of my body. That was my goal. To be honest, before I started this deficit, that's how I like to live my life. At that body weight, I'm generally, I think people would potentially see me on a leaner side of a scale more times than not, but I do hold a fair bit of body fat on my legs. Like, this is where I hold it. I don't mind that. Like, it doesn't bother me. So where I sort of started my deficit back in Whoop Whoop, I love my physique like that. That's probably where I'll resume to. A few extra kilos on me is where I can sit comfortably with my food and my training and not be as focused, which is realistic for me for life, which is what it's all about. It's all about being happy with your body forever and not always being super consumed by your food. So I knew I wasn't going to be losing like 10 kilos like I did for my show, just a few kilos, but it's good to be able to track and see the trends so we can see our scale and our measurements go up, go down, fluctuate. I could see after I had a big weekend, maybe went out drinking or something, I would see, oh yeah, well, I've definitely holding a bit of water weight because I just had 7 margaritas on Saturday. So I was tracking my measurements and my photos every single week. So I could sort of start to see the trends, right? So when I got to about October-ish, I was like, okay, I've been in a bit of a deficit for, I think probably, let's say 8-ish weeks. I've been quite focused. My training's been good, blah, blah, blah. I think it's time to ramp it up because we were getting a bit close. And remember, like I said, in December, I had a few weeks off tracking, which I knew I was going to do at Christmas, and I had my hand. So I still had all these weeks that I was like, these actually don't count as deficit weeks. So we started to bump into like a pretty slightly more aggressive calorie deficit, let's call it that. And we increased my steps. Now, my step goal since then has been only 10,000 steps. Now, 10,000 for some people is easy, for others it's hard. For me, some days it's easier than others, but some days surprisingly, I can do like hardly any steps because especially if it's a day where I run personal training sessions, so not group sessions, upstairs at our gym is quite small. Like it's only maybe 5 meters by 8 meters, maybe a bit longer than that, but like it's not a huge space. So when I'm even walking from side to side of that space, I'm not walking much. And when you have a PT client, most of the time I'm actually just standing literally on the spot. Like I'm just standing there watching them, talking to them. I'm not walking around a floor, right? So I can hardly do any steps. And if I do PT in the morning, come home and have a busy day of admin sitting at my desk and go back and do PTs, I could literally do like 3,000 steps. But then the next day I might do 12,000 steps. So my goal was to every day hit 10,000 steps, not a weekly average of 10,000. It was to try and increase my step count on my days where I was less active. That included the weekend, Saturday and Sunday. You hungover on Sunday, Olivia? Get up, bitch, and get your steps in. Like, that was my motto. And very proud of myself since then, since October, literally done my steps every single day. Like, even the days when I'm like, yeah, I've been hungover, whatever, I've done my steps. Now, that's not counting those times where I had my break. So I had my break over Christmas and I had my hens break. Those are the time periods where I was like, I'm not wearing my watch. I'm trying to, get out of this deficit mindset because I don't want to be controlling me. And, it's very easy to get obsessive over these things. So, but I increased my steps and it's something that I've done every single day since then. So October, calories went down, energy expenditure went up, and it is sort of, my energy expenditure stayed about the same since then, but I have continued to have a few more calorie drops every like 4 to 6 weeks. Now, I had a bit of a goal because just before I went to my hen, so the last week of January, I had my wedding dress alterations. Now, I already knew my wedding dress was quite big. When I picked it up originally, it was quite big, and then I've lost a bit of weight, so I knew it was going to be quite big on me again. So when I went to my alterations, I wanted to go with the idea that I was sort of going to be where I was sitting. I didn't want from January to March be like, fuck, I'm really behind on my diet or not my diet, my body composition goal. I need to really aggressively get my shit together over 8 weeks, which you can. In 8 weeks, you can see small amount of change if you do it in a more aggressive manner. But for me, again, the whole time I've wanted this to be very realistic, very balanced, and enjoy this experience. So I was like, end of January was the goal when I went for alterations. Felt good. Obviously, like I said, my dress was going to be big, but the alterations obviously made to make the dress fit you. So then the goal since then has been for me to pretty much maintain. I would say I've lost a little bit more since then, but my goal was to not change anything. So after my alterations, I had my hens, which were having that break, and then I've just gone back to that same calorie goal, step goal, training goal, and I'm just holding that to the wedding. So I've held that for like another, 8-ish weeks leading into the wedding from there. Now, in saying that, throughout the whole period, I have had a few weekend days where I've done no tracking, and it might be, like I said, we might have had something on, I might have had someone's birthday, and I'm like, I'm working hard. I've done it over this long period of time so I can have these free days where I could not track. I'd probably still do my steps, maybe just eat a little bit smarter. Doesn't mean that I'm just like, I'm not tracking, fuck it, I'm just going to have whatever I want all day. I'm going to have 7 packets of chips and hash browns only for breakfast. But like, I just haven't tracked it. So I've just ate a little bit more intuitively that day, and that's happened a few times throughout this whole period, which is what I wanted to do. Now, with my actual training, that's sort of my food focus and how my calories have dropped. And obviously when I'm talking about calories dropping, I'm tracking my food on MyFitnessPal, and I've done that the whole time. That's been like the thing that I've tracked my food on, just because that's the app that I've used forever and I'm very confident on that. Now with my training, before I started the deficit, I was training 4 strength days a week, and then I was doing Friday Run Club, which is was a 30-minute run. Now, that was all well and good. That's what I was doing. I kept that for a little bit, and then I've started to increase my training, and I can't remember when I increased it. It was probably closer to the end of the year, like in that September, October period. And I have sustained that since then. And I've been doing 4 strength sessions a week, 1 like cardio HIIT day a week, and then my 1 run. But the runs have actually increased because the guys at the gym are training for Hilda Harbour. So that 30-minute sort of like casual run has turned into more of a harder run. So like we've been building out over the past 8 weeks. I'm going to say we've been building. So like we did like we've worked our way up to 12 Ks. So that means that my energy expenditure on that second run has also increased, which has technically worked out well for me in terms of my training. But my training pretty much has been 4 strength sessions, a cardio session, and then a run, with this run increasing as I've gone through towards the end point here. And then my trainings just sort of stay the same. So the only way I sort of increased my energy expenditure was increasing those steps later down the track. Now, the reason why I'm telling you guys all this, because I feel like, one, you don't really sort of hear people talk super in depth about what they've done to like get in shape for their wedding. And, I think you think, oh, like getting in shape for your wedding, you must be starving yourself. But like, I haven't done that at all. And I've planned it so that I could enjoy my events and I could feel like my best self and I could do all these sorts of things without being super restrictive. You could do it in a shorter period of time. Some people might be like, well, I don't want to be that focused around my food for, almost 9 months. I would prefer to only be focused on my food for 3 months, 12 weeks, and just sort of like bring it hard home. If that's what you want to do, that's what's going to make you feel your best self, go off, sweetie. It's like each to their own, but this is what personally I wanted to do. I also feel like it's always better to be ready sooner rather than later. And like, to be honest, like I said, my wedding dress alterations was in January. So technically I had to be body ready by January for that to be as, easy of a process as possible, which it actually wasn't that easy of a process, which I will talk about after the wedding. But shout out to Designed by B, Brooke, who's my alterations girl, and she is the best. But yeah, so I wanted to make that as easy as possible, be pretty close so we could just alter to that body and then be done. Because yeah, a lot of girls lose lots of weight just before their wedding those last few weeks, mainly because of stress. They're not eating, they're doing heaps of things, where I haven't been stressed at all. I haven't really been stressed at all leading into the wedding. I'm very organized. Hopefully, touch wood. I'm telling everyone I'm unorganized, but like, probably something's going to happen. I'm going to have to be like, I forgot about that. But yeah, I'm not stressed leading into the wedding. So I feel like I'm not under eating or anything. I'm still eating my normal food, doing my normal training, all the same things. But yeah, so that's sort of like what I've done. Now, other like health things in these last few weeks is that, or the last few months, I've started taking some like vitamin C and some probiotics for my gut health. Both of them wouldn't say necessary. A lot of the time, like, I'm a big preacher that you should get your supplementation from your diet. Like, that's, yes, you can you can have supplementation to assist you in things, but you also can get it from your diet. But just as a little precaution, I've started taking vitamin C just to help with my immune health, and then some probiotics to help with my gut health. And that's also because we're going to Fiji. And when I went to Fiji last time, I did get a little bit sick in the tummy. I think it was just specifically one thing I ate, because no one else got sick or anything. And the food is pretty clean and stuff. It could have been anything, but just a little precaution for myself. I just started doing that, and I've really honed down on my sleep, because I think everyone forgets how important your sleep is for your stress levels and for your bloody beauty. Like, when you're stressed, it shows on your body. It shows like you hold water weight, obviously you have bags under your eyes, people can break out. So I've really, really been focusing on my sleep these past, probably month. As I've said before on this podcast, I am restricted with the hours I can sleep at night, because sometimes I don't finish work till 7:30, let's say, get home. By the time we have dinner, like, I finish at the gym at 7:30, home by 8, shower, dinner, like 8 to 9, like I've had dinner, I've showered. And then by the time I get to bed, and, me and Nate haven't seen each other all day. So like, we have a 10-minute conversation and then I try and go to sleep. My goal is to always be like actually asleep by 10, like conked out by 10, and then I get up at 4. So that gives me a 6-hour window of sleep, which, as we know, probably isn't exactly enough sleep for me, but I'm able to function on that. It's sort of what I need. That's, as I just said, is how my life works. I've got to do that. But over the past few weeks, I've been prioritizing to try and have a nap almost every day. And you have to think, oh my God, the luxury of having a nap. Well, guys, I wake up at 4 a.m. every day and work till 7:30 at night. So like, I wouldn't really call it living the dream all the time with my sleep. But I do have the luxury that I do have the middle of the day to, I do my admin work and, sometimes I have not many hours. But if I can lay down for even half an hour and close my eyes, I've been trying to do it. Decrease my stress, making me feel a little bit better. And there's some study, I can't remember, Nath reads all these studies and tells me about them, whatever. And it's like something like you try and people like you think that you're maybe not even Nath told me. I can't remember who told me, but like your sleep, when you're deprived of sleep, you actually don't catch up on that negative sleep. Like, if that next day I had 12 hours of sleep, the following day after that 12 hours of sleep, I'm not actually going to feel like the benefits of having that restorative sleep over those 12 hours. It actually takes I think it was 7 to 10 days for you to have the positive effects of catching up on your sleep. So, and that's why sometimes you can have a long sleep and you can still wake up a bit groggy and a bit tired and, because sometimes it can be a bit too much and, because you should overall be resting well over the week. So yes, I've been doing that as well, to try and help with my health as well, because obviously that all puts in place with how your body reacts. And I tell my clients that all the time when they say, oh, I feel like I'm put on weight or, or I'm not feeling really great about myself right now. And we always think, oh, well, what's your food like? You've been training, all those sorts of things. But we forget about all the other factors as well. And stress and sleep is a huge component. My water intake hasn't changed. 3 liters a day, every day, all day. Never miss your water, guys. And that's about it. And I'm feeling pretty damn good. I don't feel like I would like to look any different for my wedding. Look at myself in the mirror. I'm feeling pretty great. Am I like a stick? No, I don't want to look like a stick. I want to look like a gym mummy that goes to the gym. I want to have some muscle on me. I don't want to see my bones. That's my personal preference of what I envisioned me looking like for my wedding day. And I think that I'm going to feel really confident in my dress and on the wedding day. And hopefully I look back at photos and be like, oh yeah, I worked really hard to look like that. And, I was really focused on, on becoming my best self for this one event. And it's an event that happens once in your life, so you do want to feel great. Now, I've done a bit of rambling probably, but I think there's a few key takeaways that I think everyone who wants to be in a deficit or wants to look a certain way for an event, to know that it doesn't happen overnight, guys. And this is with everything. Everyone's always oh, I've been focusing on my food for 4 weeks and I'm not seeing any change. Guys, I did this for 9 months. 9 months, okay? 9 months. And like I said, maybe you could do it in a more aggressive way, but again, that would be 12 weeks. And that would be 12 weeks pretty much consistent every single day. Not having weekends off and not missing any part of the plan, essentially. So it takes time for your body to change. It takes time and it takes consistency. Like I just said, I've done my 10,000 steps a day, pretty much every day since October. I'm not missing a day. I'm not getting lazy. I'm not being I'm hungover today or I can't bother. It's Sunday. I don't want to do it. Get up and do it. If you want to get results, you've got to do the hard things. And it's, it is easier said than done. I understand that everyone's different, but you need to have a goal. You need to have an action plan to actually achieve that goal. Like I said, in June or July last year, I set this goal and I set a plan. I planned out, I said, I know these are going to be busy periods. I know these are going to be weeks where I'm not going to achieve anything. But what do I need to do to be able to achieve my goal in time? It has to be thought out. So people always want to achieve these crazy goals and people want to lose weight. It's what I hear all the time at the gym. But do you actually want to dedicate to lose weight? Are you actually dedicated to that goal? And are you actually going to do what is needed and sacrifice what is needed to achieve that goal? Some people just aren't, and that's okay. And sometimes you're not in the right phase of life. And I hear that all the time, that people, like I just said, I feel like I put on weight, or, X, Y, and Z, my clothes aren't fitting as well, or whatever it might be, or I'm not feeling like my best self. And then we go through a few dot points. Okay, how's your food been? Oh, about the same, but we've been really busy at work, so I've missed a few meals, or, I've been away, or, the kids have been sick, or things like this. And these are all little red flags that are like, okay, well, these are potential reasons why maybe it's not the right time for you to have a specific goal for you to lose weight, because it takes time, it takes dedication, and it takes consistency. And you have to feel confident in any shape of body that you are. And generally, if you get put into a body, like me saying you get put into a body, but if you are a body that you are not happy with and you're not feeling most confident with, there's probably other factors of your life that you're not happy with it and you're not feeling confident with. And, generally, if you change those factors, you will start to become healthier and more confident within your body. So it's always more to the story than just, I'm going to lose 20 kilos. Like, no, like, why do you need to lose 20 kilos? And when we start to talk about the why, there's usually reasons. These are usually the key factors of they're the things we need to change, not the actual body. But if we change these things, the body will change. Hopefully that makes sense. But I'm going to put up on the Facebook, no, not the bloody Facebook, the Instagram for the podcast, when I put this up, my little before and after photos, because on Friday, I'm recording this on Wednesday, it's going to go out on Friday. On Friday morning, I'm going to do my final progress pictures. So we can see what the bod's looking like. I don't think I'll probably put my weight change, but just know I haven't lost much weight. So that's good. I might put it up. I don't know. We'll wait and see. But yeah, just know to feel like your best self, to change your body takes time, takes dedication, and it takes consistency, guys. But the next time that you hear from me, team, I'll be a wife. Wow, I'll be a wife. And I can't wait to come back and talk about the wedding process. I can't wait to talk about the wedding, like the day, and tell you guys about it. And then I can't wait to talk about like the planning and potential learning curves. But just know that like you're only as stressed as you make yourself be. Like if you're not stressed, if you don't make yourself stressed, you won't be stressed. And I think that's just sort of where I'm at the moment. Like feeling pretty chill. Like I've got things to do, but like I'll do it. It's fine. But anyway, hopefully this has been maybe slightly insightful. And yes, just know that your skinnier self isn't your best self. And like I said, after the wedding, I will, which is probably the final thing I'm going to talk about. After the wedding, I do plan on increasing my food. And with increasing my food, it does mean that I probably will put on a little bit of body fat, which is okay. Like I feel my most energetic self. I am less food focused, so it's mentally better for me when I'm eating just a little bit more food. It's not drastic. Like my food hasn't changed crazy, but like it's enough that I am making swaps. Like I've been having salads for lunch every day for bloody who knows how long now. That's fine. But they are very low in calorie salads. I've been trying to fill them up with things to keep me full, but yes, they are low in calorie. And do I prefer to have a rice dish for lunch? Yes, because it helps me have more energy at work in the afternoon and, all these sorts of things. So will I want to return to that? Yes, I will. So I am planning on continuing to track after the wedding and with increasing my calories. And that's a goal I'm going to set myself to try and stay as balanced as I can with my diet, because I find when I don't track, I can very easily not eat enough. Like I can eat bigger meals, but maybe not enough. And sometimes I, sort of miss my 100% balance. So I'm going to try and, reinforce those habits of eating more food. I'd love to build my maintenance calories up. So maybe something I'm going to work towards. But yeah, just know that I am going to bump my calories up. I'm not going to count my steps after the wedding. That's another thing because I've become super focused with that. So that's another thing. Training's probably going to stay very similar. I've got a few training goals coming, and I'm sure after the wedding I will tell you what they are. But yeah, I'm going to be becoming very training focused, like training goal focused, which my food is going to have to be revolving around, like in terms of increasing my food for performance. So yeah, there's goals in the future. But yes, excited for the wedding, excited to tell you guys about it. But hopefully you found this insightful. Hopefully my camera has recorded this. If it hasn't, fuck, I'll have the shits. Anyway, love you all. Happy life, happy wife. Woo!